Ryan Cole stepped off the shuttle and onto the smooth, glowing surface of Elytria's landing platform. The air smelled strange but clean, almost like metal and rain mixed together. He adjusted the straps of his armor, feeling the weight press against his shoulders. The armor had seen many battles. Scratches and dents covered its surface, but it had kept him alive. He trusted it. Without it, he would be just a man among a sea of aliens. And here, humans were often judged for being weak or crude. He looked up at the towering crystal palace. Sunlight bounced off the walls in soft rainbows. Inside, Elytrian nobles would watch him. Their armor was slim, delicate, shining like jewelry, and their warriors moved as if dancing. He had been warned to expect beauty and grace, and perhaps some ridicule for his clumsy human suit. "Remember," said Lisa Grant, the human ambassador accompanying him, "they may laugh, but don't lose your calm. We are guests, and we represent the frontier worlds." Ryan nodded. "I know, it's just armor. They will see the man eventually." The doors of the palace opened with a soft chime. Ryan walked forward, each step heavy and firm. The hall inside was taller than any human building, the walls made of clear crystal and glowing with inner light. Floating platforms carried servants and attendants from one side to another, moving silently. Alien nobles in colorful robes and thin, gleaming armor lined the corridors. They stared at him as he walked by, whispering to each other. Ryan ignored them. He had learned long ago that looking small would only make people underestimate him. At the center of the hall, a throne made of interwoven crystals caught his eye. The princess would be seated there. Leora, heir to the Elytrian throne, was known across the system for her sharp tongue and her strict sense of tradition. Many whispered that she could destroy the confidence of even the most skilled warriors with a single glance. Ryan felt a twinge of nervousness, but he kept it hidden. He had faced worse than words before. As he approached the throne, Leora's eyes finally met his. She was striking, tall, with hair that shimmered like molten silver and eyes that reflected light in soft gold. She leaned forward slightly, resting her chin on her hand, and smiled in a way that was both amused and cruel. "So," she said, her voice smooth but cutting, "this is the human we invited to our court?" She laughed softly, a sound that echoed in the hall. "And this is his armor?" She gestured at the bulky metal suit covering Ryan from head to toe. "It looks heavy, almost childish. Does he really think such clumsiness belongs here?" A few nobles chuckled, and some whispered words Ryan could not understand. He kept his eyes forward, not allowing himself to react. But the sting of her words hit harder than he expected. Humans were already outsiders here, and to be mocked in front of the entire court made him feel small. He stayed silent. Lisa stepped forward, her hands raised slightly. "Princess Leora, Ryan Cole is a respected soldier. He comes with the blessing of the Frontier Council. Perhaps it would be wise to withhold judgment before seeing his skills." Leora's smile widened. "Oh, I do not judge before I see. I only react to the unfortunate fashion choice," she said, tapping the armor lightly with her long, delicate fingers. "It is unrefined, almost ridiculous. How can one expect him to move with such restraint?" Ryan felt his jaw tighten. Restraint. Yes, the armor restricted him, but it had saved him countless times. Each dent was a story, each scratch a memory of someone he had protected. He wanted to explain, but he also knew that in this hall, words meant little without action. "Enough chatter," Leora said, standing from her throne. "If this human wishes to impress us, let him show what he can do. We will arrange a demonstration. The guardians of Elytria will perform their routines, and he will attempt to match them." The hall buzzed with excitement. Nobles whispered, servants scurried, and a few children peeked from behind columns. The message was clear. If Ryan failed, he would be considered weak, unworthy, and a poor representative of humanity. Ryan followed the attendants through winding corridors until they reached the trial arena. The room was vast, open to the sky, with floating platforms for spectators. Guards in slim, shining armor moved with smooth precision, their weapons light and elegant. The air shimmered with energy fields that made their attacks faster and sharper. The first group of Elytrian warriors entered the arena. They moved almost like dancers, leaping and twirling, striking with controlled speed. Their armor made no sound. Their weapons glowed with soft energy. They were beautiful and deadly. The audience gasped at every move. Leora watched closely, a smile playing on her lips. She was certain that the bulky human would fail. "Your turn," one of the attendants said to Ryan, stepping aside. He took a deep breath and stepped into the center of the arena. Every movement felt heavy, each step weighed down by the armor, but he could feel the familiar rhythm of his training. Years of moving in heavy suits, of carrying injured comrades and civilians across battlefields, had prepared him for this. He did not move with elegance, but he moved with precision. The Elytrian warriors circled him, testing, striking, attempting to push him off balance. Ryan blocked and parried, using the mass of his armor to absorb blows and redirect them. He was slower, yes, but deliberate. Every move protected him and left an opening for others, if needed. A small slip from one of the Elytrian warriors brought him closer to an edge. Instinct took over. Ryan caught the warrior, steadying him before he could fall. The crowd murmured, some unsure how to react. Leora frowned. She had expected him to use every advantage for offense, to show skill in battle. Instead, he protected an opponent. After the demonstration, Ryan exited the arena. Sweat dripped down his face under the helmet, but he stood tall. The court was silent. Whispers began to spread, questioning what they had seen. Some nobles were intrigued, some confused, but the princess remained skeptical. "Human," she said sharply, standing in front of him as he removed his gloves. "You move with surprising control, I admit, but your armor is still grotesque. I doubt you could survive without it. I challenge you to remove it. Show us what lies beneath. Only then will we understand if humans have any real courage beyond brute protection." Ryan felt a flicker of hesitation. The armor had protected him and carried the marks of many battles. It was a shield, a reminder of who he had been and what he had done. To remove it in front of this court was to show vulnerability, something humans rarely did willingly in alien halls. Lisa stepped forward, placing a hand on his arm. "Ryan, perhaps this is what they need. It may change their view. You have survived worse than words." Ryan looked at the princess, her eyes bright with curiosity and amusement, and then at the court, waiting for his decision. He nodded slowly. "Very well," he said quietly. "When the next gathering happens, I will remove it. But I ask that the princess listen to the story behind it first." Leora raised an eyebrow but did not protest. There was something in his voice, calm and steady, that demanded attention. The hall seemed to quiet even more. That night, Ryan sat alone in his guest chamber, the soft hum of Elytrian energy lights filling the room. He ran a hand over a dent in the shoulder of his armor, remembering the day it had saved him from a plasma blast. Each mark was a story, each scratch a life saved or a friend lost. He whispered to himself that armor did not make a man, but it did tell the story of the choices a man made. He looked out at the palace gardens, glowing under alien moons, and thought about the challenge ahead. Removing the armor would expose not just his body, but his history. He wondered if they would understand, if Leora and her court could see beyond the metal and the scars. He knew that courage was not just in fighting, but in standing bare before those who doubted him. And somewhere deep inside, Ryan felt a spark of curiosity. The princess who mocked him had seen more than she let on. Perhaps beneath her sharp tongue, there was a mind capable of understanding the value of what he carried, even if it was hidden beneath crude human metal. As he drifted to sleep, Ryan prepared himself for what was to come. The next gathering would decide how humans were seen in this alien court. It would be a test not of skill alone, but of heart, courage, and the truths that armor could never hide. The day of the trial arrived with a sky painted in pale gold and soft blue. Ryan Cole followed the attendants through the palace corridors, his armor clinking slightly with each step. The hallways were alive with the hum of Elytrian energy lights and the whispers of nobles preparing for the demonstration. He could hear the soft footsteps of Elytrian servants floating above, carrying crystal trays of refreshments and instruments that seemed both familiar and strange. As he reached the arena, Ryan paused to take it in. The arena was vast, open to the sky, and surrounded by crystal towers that glowed in the sunlight. The floor was smooth, but glowing lines traced patterns across the surface, marking zones for combat demonstrations. Floating platforms carried spectators high above, giving every noble a clear view. Energy fields shimmered faintly around the edges, adding a sense of otherworldly danger. Leora, the princess, sat upon her crystal throne at the far end of the arena. Her silver hair gleamed in the sun, and her golden eyes scanned the crowd. She wore her light, delicate armor, which sparkled with thin streams of energy. Beside her, nobles whispered softly, casting glances at Ryan. Some seemed curious, others skeptical, and a few smirked, still expecting the human to fail. The first group of Elytrian warriors entered the arena. They moved with grace that almost seemed unreal, floating lightly on their feet and striking with energy blades that glowed like soft lightning. Each movement was precise, controlled, and beautiful. Ryan observed them carefully, noticing the rhythm of their motions and the way they balanced even on the narrowest of platforms. The crowd gasped at each elegant strike, their admiration clear. "Human," one of the attendants said, stepping aside. "Your turn." Ryan stepped into the arena, his armor heavy but familiar. The court murmured at the sight. The bulky suit made him look slow and awkward compared to the Elytrians' flowing movements. He felt their judgment, the whispers in the back of the crowd, and even Leora's eyes, sharp and assessing. He took a deep breath and remembered the drills, the countless hours of moving in heavy armor, learning to anticipate attacks, to use the weight to his advantage. The Elytrian warriors circled him, striking with speed and elegance, testing his reflexes. Ryan blocked and parried, using the weight of his armor to absorb blows that would have crushed him otherwise. He moved deliberately, slower than the Elytrians, but precise. His arms and legs acted like shock absorbers, redirecting energy and protecting himself while leaving openings that could allow an opponent to continue. It was not flashy, but it was effective. A young Elytrian guard lunged at him, missing by a hair. The momentum carried the guard toward the arena's edge. Without thinking, Ryan shifted and caught the guard's arm, steadying him before he could fall. The audience gasped. A few nobles looked annoyed, expecting him to use the advantage to strike or push the guard away. Leora's brow furrowed. She had anticipated aggression, not protection. "He moves with control," she murmured, more to herself than anyone else. Her lips twitched, a mixture of curiosity and frustration. But why protect an opponent? The trial continued. Ryan faced several Elytrian warriors, sometimes alone, sometimes two at once. Each time, he used the armor's weight to absorb the force of attacks, repositioning himself and his opponents in ways that minimized harm. He was slower than the alien warriors, but he anticipated their movements and adjusted quickly. The arena floor bore scratches and dents from the skirmish, a testament to the effort. At one point, an energy blade struck the armor near his chest with a sharp clang. The impact jolted his body, but he held firm. The crowd murmured again, noticing how the human's armor seemed almost alive in its protection, shifting to save him at every turn. After the trial, Ryan exited the arena, sweat running down his face beneath the helmet. He removed his gloves, revealing hands calloused from years of battle. The court was silent. Whispers ran through the nobles, and Leora's golden eyes studied him intently. "Human," she said sharply, stepping forward. "You move with unexpected skill, I admit that, but your armor remains grotesque. You could not survive without it. If you wish to be understood, you must remove it. Show us the man beneath." Ryan felt a flicker of hesitation. The armor had saved him countless times, carried the scars of battles and memories of lives he had protected. It was more than metal. It was a part of his history. To remove it now in front of this court would be to expose not just his body, but every story he carried. Lisa Grant stepped forward, placing a gentle hand on his arm. "Ryan, this may be what they need. Your actions have impressed them, but your story is not complete. If you show them who you truly are, they may finally understand." Ryan nodded slowly. He looked at Leora, her sharp eyes full of curiosity and challenge, and then at the silent court. "Very well," he said quietly. "I will remove it, but only if the princess agrees to listen to why I wear it." Leora raised an eyebrow, intrigued. She did not expect him to agree so willingly, yet there was something in his calm voice that demanded attention. She nodded slowly. The court seemed to lean closer, sensing the tension and the importance of what was about to unfold. After the trial, Ryan returned to his guest chamber. He removed the helmet and sat on the edge of the bed. His armor was scratched, dented, and heavy with the weight of history. He ran his hands along the marks, remembering each moment. The day a plasma blast had nearly taken his life but for the armor, the time he had carried a wounded child across a battlefield, the burns, the bruises, and the scars it concealed. He whispered to himself that the armor was not a show of strength or pride. It was a testament to the choices he had made, the people he had saved, and the lives he had witnessed. It was protection, yes, but also a story. One day, he hoped the Elytrians would see it that way too. That night, he trained in his chamber. Moving in heavy armor was exhausting but familiar. He practiced blocking, shifting weight, and adjusting to attacks. Every motion reminded him of the discipline humans carried, the quiet patience and endurance that often went unnoticed. His muscles ached, but he welcomed it. He knew the next day would bring more than a physical challenge. It would test perception, courage, and trust. The next morning, Ryan returned to the arena. The court had gathered once more. Nobles in elaborate robes and delicate armor, attendants carrying crystal vessels of water and food, children peeking from behind the columns. The floating platforms hovered silently, the sunlight reflecting off their polished surfaces. Leora was already there, sitting upright, her eyes fixed on him. "Today," she said, voice clear and strong, "the human will continue his demonstration. We will see not only skill but also character. He may yet surprise us." Ryan nodded, acknowledging her words. He stepped into the arena once more. The Elytrian warriors were ready, moving with their usual grace and speed. This time, however, Ryan did something different. He did not rush. He did not try to match their elegance. Instead, he moved deliberately, focusing on balance, protection, and anticipation. A warrior attacked from the left, swift and sharp. Ryan shifted slightly, using the armor's weight to absorb the blow, then redirected the momentum to stabilize himself and the attacker. Another lunged from above, and he ducked, letting the force slide off his shoulder. Every motion was calculated, every move deliberate. He noticed a young Elytrian guard struggling to maintain balance near the arena's edge. Instinct took over. Ryan stepped toward him, catching the guard and pulling him back to safety. The crowd gasped again. Some were impressed, others confused. Lyora's eyes narrowed, a mixture of frustration and fascination on her face. She had expected aggression, not protection. "Why?" she asked quietly, almost to herself. "Why protect an opponent when victory is so close?" Ryan looked toward her, though she could not see his eyes beneath the helmet. He wanted to answer, but words were not needed. His actions spoke louder. Every block, every shift, every moment he saved someone told a story of courage, discipline, and humanity that was unfamiliar to the Elytrians. When the trial ended, he stepped out of the arena, armor still on, breathing heavily but steady. The court remained silent. Whispers ran through the nobles, uncertain what to make of him. Some looked impressed, others skeptical. But Leora's golden eyes were fixed on him, seeing more than they had before. "Human," she said at last. "You move with skill, yes, but skill is not enough. Courage is not measured in attacks alone. If you truly wish to be understood, show us the man beneath. Remove the armor, and let us see what you are made of." Ryan felt the weight of her words. The armor had protected him, carried the marks of his past, and kept him alive. Yet he understood. If he wished to earn respect and show the true human spirit, he had to take the next step. He nodded slowly, agreeing to reveal himself at the next gathering and only then tell the stories behind the armor. That night, he sat in his chamber, thinking of the challenge ahead. Removing the armor would expose not just his body, but every battle, every scar, every memory tied to it. It was more than fear. This was the vulnerability of truth. Yet he felt a spark of hope. Perhaps Leora and the court would see what humans valued: protection, courage, and the willingness to stand for others, no matter the danger. As the lights of the Crystal Palace glowed softly in the evening, Ryan prepared himself. Tomorrow, he would show them what lay beneath the metal, and he would tell the story of every mark, every scar, and every life he had saved. The human spirit, he thought, could not be judged by armor alone. The day of the gathering arrived with soft sunlight spilling over the palace. The hall was filled with nobles, attendants, and guests from across the system. Floating platforms hovered silently, giving everyone a clear view. The walls of the palace glowed softly with the inner light of crystals, casting rainbows across the crowd. Everyone whispered in anticipation. Ryan Cole stood at the center of the hall, still in his heavy armor. The court was quiet, waiting to see what would happen. Leora, the princess, sat upon her crystal throne, her silver hair shining in the sunlight. She studied him carefully. There was something in the way he stood, calm and confident, that made her pause. She had mocked his armor before, but now curiosity mingled with her amusement. "Human," she said, her voice echoing in the hall, "today you will show us what lies beneath your metal. Remove it and let the court see who you truly are." Ryan nodded slowly. He took a deep breath and started the process. The armor's locks clicked and whirred as he released them. Panels separated, revealing the undersuit beneath. The Elytrian nobles murmured among themselves. Some looked impressed, others confused. Leora's eyes narrowed, watching every movement. As Ryan removed each piece, he revealed more than his body. His skin was covered in scars, burns, and bruises from years of battles and dangers. Some were thin and faded, others thick and jagged, telling stories that the court could not yet understand. He moved carefully, revealing a human who had faced hardship and pain, yet remained strong. When the last piece of armor fell to the floor, Ryan stood bare in his undersuit. He was not the polished, graceful figure of the Elytrians, but there was strength in every line of his body. He had the posture of a soldier, the eyes of a man who had seen loss and carried responsibility, and a calm presence that commanded attention without effort. The hall was silent. The whispers stopped. Even Leora could not find words at first. She had expected weakness, fragility, or fear. Instead, she saw courage, experience, and a strange, quiet authority. "Tell us," she said finally, her voice softer now. "Why have you carried this armor? What do these marks mean?" Ryan lowered his gaze briefly, then looked back at her. He began to speak, keeping his voice steady. "Every mark, every dent, every burn," he said, "tells a story. This armor saved me many times, but it also reminds me of the people I chose to protect. The plasma burn on my arm came from shielding civilians on Caldra. Shrapnel on my side came from dragging a wounded soldier through a collapsing habitat. The scar over my ribs? It is from holding a friend against a blast so that others could escape." He paused, letting the words sink in. The hall was completely silent. Even the Elytrian nobles, who prided themselves on their grace and control, seemed shaken. Leora leaned forward, her golden eyes reflecting a mixture of shock and understanding. "Why risk your life for others?" she asked quietly. "Even for those not of your world?" Ryan's gaze swept across the room, making eye contact with nobles, attendants, and even the children watching from the sides. "On the frontier," he said, "it does not matter if someone is human or Elytrian, friend or stranger. What matters is whether they need help and whether you are willing to give it. That is courage. That is honor." A murmur ran through the court. Some nobles looked uncomfortable, their tradition-bound beliefs challenged. Protecting others, even an opponent, was not always the Elytrian way. Yet there was something undeniable in what Ryan said. The actions matched the words, and the armor had been proof of his choices. Leora rose from her throne. She walked down the steps, approaching him carefully. She reached out, tracing a finger lightly over one of the deeper scars on his arm. "You are remarkable," she said, her voice almost a whisper. "I mocked your armor, but I see now it was not just metal. It was proof of your life, your choices, and your courage. The man beneath it, I did not expect this." Ryan met her gaze calmly. He felt no need to boast or explain further. The armor had already told the story, but now the scars and his voice completed it. He did not need the court to accept him. He only needed them to see that humans had a different kind of honor, one not based on elegance or tradition, but on the willingness to act when it mattered most. An elder noble, Master Kale, stepped forward. His silver hair glowed in the sunlight, and his eyes held wisdom and years of observing many worlds. "I have lived long," he said slowly, "and I have seen courage in many forms. This human has shown a courage and a heart that even our most polished warriors seldom display. It is a lesson for all of us." The court shifted, some nobles nodding slowly. Leora's expression softened, though her eyes still held a sharp glint. She had seen him in combat, she had heard his words, and now she had seen the scars that told the truth of his life. The human she had mocked was far stronger than she had imagined. Ryan felt a strange calm. He had feared vulnerability, feared that revealing himself would make him weak in the eyes of these aliens. Yet the opposite had happened. His honesty, his willingness to show the truth, had commanded respect in a way combat alone never could. "You see now," he said quietly, looking around the hall, "that courage is not just in winning a fight. It is in standing for others, in protecting those who cannot protect themselves, even if it costs you everything. That is what humans do. That is who we are." Some of the younger nobles exchanged glances. They had been taught that honor was about obedience, about elegance and display. Ryan's words challenged that, and for the first time they began to question the old ways. Leora studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "Perhaps we have much to learn from humans," she said softly. "Your armor, your scars, They are not weaknesses. They are proof of what matters most. Ryan inclined his head. He did not smile, but there was a quiet satisfaction in his chest. He had not sought praise or admiration. He had only revealed the truth of his life, the decisions he had made, and the values he carried. And now, the court could see it too. "Let it be known," Leora said, raising her hand, "that courage and honor are not measured only by tradition. They are measured by action, by choices, and by heart. This human has shown us that, and we are wiser for it." The hall erupted into soft applause. Some clapped hesitantly, unsure, but the sentiment was clear. Ryan had earned respect, not by following their rules, but by demonstrating a kind of bravery that transcended tradition. Even Lord Savick, who had mocked him before, looked uncomfortable. He had no words to dispute what he had seen. As the crowd continued to murmur, Ryan turned slightly, glancing at Leora. She met his gaze with something new: respect, curiosity, and perhaps a quiet admiration. The princess, who had once mocked his armor, now understood the man beneath it. She had been stunned, not just by his body, but by the life it represented and the choices he had made. After the gathering, Ryan returned to his guest chamber. He sat quietly, running a hand over the edge of one of his scars. Each mark was a memory, a lesson, and a reminder. He felt no pride, only a sense of completion. He had shown the court what humans were capable of, and they had begun to understand. That night, he could hear the distant sounds of the palace, soft music, whispers of nobles discussing what they had witnessed, and the gentle hum of the crystals. He closed his eyes and thought of the future. Tomorrow, the real test would come, not in demonstration, but in action. The lessons he had shown in armor and scars would soon be needed in a real challenge, one that would prove whether words and reputation could survive danger. Ryan knew he was ready. He had revealed the truth of who he was, and now he would act on it. Whatever came next, he would meet it not as a man hiding behind metal, but as a human who understood courage, sacrifice, and the weight of protecting others. The armor had been heavy, but the truth was heavier and far more important. He drifted to sleep with a quiet sense of purpose. The court had seen the human beneath the armor, and the princess who had mocked him was no longer laughing. She was watching, learning, and perhaps beginning to see what it meant to value courage and heart above all else. Tomorrow, the challenges would continue. But for now, Ryan Cole could rest, knowing that the first and most difficult part was done. He had faced the judgment of an alien court and had revealed the man beneath the metal.